Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata, and we're back for another Real 50 Over 50 interview. And today we have Maria Leonard Olsen. She practices law as a commercial litigator in Washington, D.C. She's an author of 50 After 50, Reframing the Next Chapter of Your Life, and the host of the Becoming Your Best Version podcast. She's a journalist, a two-time TEDx speaker, and her first TED Talk is Turning Life's Challenges into a Force for Good. She's a book marketing coach for female authors and mentor to women in recovery. Maria served as political appointee for the Clinton Justice Department and on numerous boards, and she writes for several women in midlife publications, including AARP's The Ethel, The Mist, and Cool Life and Crunchy Tales, and is a frequent public speaker on wellness issues. She's got a ton of stuff coming up. One is her next TEDx talk, which she's already completed, and we're just waiting for it to hit the airwaves, and books on the topic of DNA test prizes. Sorry about the noise, folks. It's landscaping day here. And what to do before and after you open the Pandora's box of consumer DNA testing. And that's going to be coming out in 2026. And 60 After 60, Finding Serenity in Your 60s or at any age. Welcome, Maria, and sorry about the noise.
Thank you, Donna.
We'll just keep going. They'll go away eventually. So, tell me about this 50 After 50. We're doing very similar stuff here. So when you turned 50, or was it leading up to 50, you made a list of 50 things you wanted to do, and then you actually did them.
Well, the universe conspired for three major things to happen to me in my 50th year. One, I got divorced. Two, I got sober. And three, I became an empty nester and was living alone for the first time in my life. So when I was about to turn 50, I thought, oh, I just want to hide. But instead, I decided to try 50 new things in my 50th year to determine how I wanted to live the next chapter. And these things ranged from spiritual endeavors to adventure and thrill seeking, physical challenges, learning and teaching, travel. And each one taught me something about who I was and who I wanted to be.
And what were some of the standout experiences?
Well, the most dramatic thing I did was to sell many of my belongings, donate many, put the rest in storage, and move to Nepal in the Himalayas in one of the poorest places in the world and volunteer at a school for a couple months. I had no running water or electricity. There was snow on the ground. And what it became for me was an exercise in cultivating gratitude because I was able to focus on all that I had instead of all that I had lost. So I came from a really great circumstance, married to a wealthy man. I would have had to work again, but I was unhappy and my drinking got out of control. And so that was a really great reset to go away and just focus on how lucky I am by virtue of being born in the US and having the social safety net that we have here. Then other things included lifestyle changes like surrounding myself with people who encourage and uplift me and limiting my time, if not eliminating my time, with people I consider to be energy vampires who just are negative or take. So those were two very impactful things that happened in my 50th year. I'm also really a fan of travel. And so I've been to 72 countries. I'm trying to go to all the countries in the world during my lifetime. But getting off the hamster wheel of Washington legal practice and going to off the beaten path places, especially to learn about other cultures and expand my perspectives, has really changed my life.
Mm. And how long did it take for you to complete that list?
Well, I gave myself my whole 50th year, so a year, I would say. And Some of the stuff I had started earlier than that, but I really jumped into this experiment for myself. And I'm so glad that I did because I didn't intend to write a book or do a TED talk about it. But the age 50 is such a reckoning point in our culture that so many people ask me for my list. So I decided to turn it into a book. And it has since yielded a spot or a segment on CBS Sunday Morning and a TED talk that all of which has helped a lot of people get unstuck and really pivot in midlife.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, something definitely happens physiologically to us when we get to that point, and sometimes it's 50 or before or after. But when we have the space to like think about what do we want, like it's my turn.
Yeah.
What's going to make me feel fulfilled? And it's amazing. Like this is the 135th interview that I'm doing in this series, and it's a common theme across every single conversation, and it's just so wonderful to watch women really like lean into who they are um, and do the things that make them happy and light them up and make them feel important to themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so good. um, okay, we've got a guest here. She's saying what an amazing journey. So now you did this again in your 60s, right?
I did. And I have to say that in my 60s, I feel so much more settled. I feel like I'm living a life true to my values. And so the things I did in my 60th year weren't as dramatic. I did include the seventh continent, Antarctica, in between 50 and 60. I
Hmm.
um, really feel more myself now and that I know a clear path to what I want to do in life. And I feel like I have a great tribe around me, yet I'm still growing and learning because I think we should never stop that or grow complacent with where we are. There's always room for growth and improvement and paying it forward. I feel like many of us in midlife, we rode on the shoulders of the women before us and have, I feel, a duty to help the younger generation overcome the obstacles that are still left. There's still pay disparity in the workplace. And my mentors played pivotal roles in my life. And so I want to mentor people who aren't as far along in their journeys as I am. So I'm continually looking for ways to give back and ways to make things a little bit easier for other people. Like you mentioned that I have this side gig helping female authors. And the way I do it isn't typical. I'm not just a typical marketer and publicist. What I do is I try to teach women authors how to do it themselves because it's not rocket science. It's
No.
just time consuming. And much like you do for the women who go to your resource get togethers, you share resources and ways of doing things that really lighten the load and streamline processes.
Yeah.
So,
I do the same thing because, both with marketing, PR, the other one is SEO. These are just like, prime for people to get ripped off if they don't know anything about it.
yeah,
And just buy into the wrong services, things that they don't even really need. What they need is basic and simple, and that they just don't know that that's the case. And
agree.
like one of my most fulfilling things in the work that I do is when somebody lands themselves media and like they're blown away, like they just couldn't believe that they did that for themselves, that somebody was that interested in what they had to say. And oh my god, I have gotten out of my car and done happy dances at red lights.
I love that. Yeah, I love it.
And it isn't rocket science. I mean, and it's fun. I
Yeah, it
love
is
that you do that
great.
too. I was so happy to see that you did that. um, because I think more people need to know this because we don't need another bad book in the world, and they don't have to be bad.
Yeah, agree. Yeah.
So now Tell us a little about your next TED Talk that's coming up and the books that are coming up, because
Yeah.
this is a really interesting story.
Well, my next TEDx talk was given October 25th, but it takes a while to make its way up to the TEDx website, TED website, and YouTube. It's about DNA test surprises, because at age 53, I was given a 23andMe test kit for speaking at a mixed race conference at which 23andMe was a corporate sponsor. I never would have bought one of these. These tests are marketed as fun holiday gifts to bring your
Mhm,
family closer, and yet the rate at which misattributed parentage is found out is about 25%.
mhm,
And I discovered that the dad who raised me is not my biological father. And no one in my family had any clue. My mom said it was a 50-50 chance that it was him or someone she had a one-night stand with.
mhm,
So it took me a year to find my biological father, who turned out to be an actor I had watched on the big and small screens, who had played for the Washington Commanders. They were the Redskins at the time he played, which is my hometown team. And I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic schools for most of my life, raised my kids Catholic, and yet I found out I'm half, genetically speaking, Ashkenazi Jew. Filipino
mhm,
Jews, my mom is an immigrant from the Philippines. Filipino Jews are very rare. The Philippines is the most Catholic country on the planet. And so these identity shifts that happened to me, and I was knocked off my feet. And there were very few good resources around. So I collected as many resources as possible. And I wrote a book about it based on hundreds of interviews and research I had done about the unintended consequences of these tests. Not only finding out about family members you didn't anticipate learning about, but there are privacy implications, law enforcement implications, insurance, um, other legal implications. And I want people to be aware that this is not something that should be taken lightly. For instance, I could become a genetic informant now on my entire bloodline in perpetuity because my DNA is in the system. So if anyone in my bloodline commits a crime for which DNA evidence is relevant, they can be found relatively easy. Some of
mhm.
the DNA testing companies require a subpoena, but some do not. And so think twice before you take one of these tests.
Yeah,
Lots of people, like Anastasia is saying, have discovered their father wasn't their biological father.
yeah,
I also think that it is something that likely strikes people of our generation more so than generations after ours, because pregnant women have more alternatives now than they did in the 60s and before then. So, I mean, it's not uncommon for a woman to have a baby out of wedlock and without a partner nowadays, but it was then. So I don't fault my mom for what she did. She did the best she could, I believe. But I just want to warn people that, for instance, it's currently legal for life insurance companies to deny you coverage if you find out something from a consumer DNA test that might affect your longevity. Like now that I am half Ashkenazi Jew, I'm more likely to be carrying the BRCA gene for breast cancer. I have to disclose that if I am applying for life insurance or long-term health care insurance. So, and it can be denied, or the coverage costs could be astronomical based on that
mhm,
test. So there are a lot of things that one should consider beforehand. And if you're a guy who may have offspring out there that you don't know about and don't want them to be inheritors of your estate, it's wise to name your children in your will. Because if you
mhm,
just say divided equally among my children, if someone may pop up later, which
mhm,
has happened, for instance, to the Belgian king who didn't realize that there was another child out there and it was provable. And so that I think it was the daughter of one of his workers inherited millions when the
wow,
king died, or the prince,
wow,
I can't remember which. But there are all these things that people don't think about. And I think that the DNA testing companies are a little bit duplicitous in not providing warnings or support.
Yeah, I always felt a little sketchy about them. Like that's a lot of information to have on a lot of people for
Yeah,
something.
it's arguably your most personal of information, and many of these companies conduct research or collaborate with other corporations, including those with Chinese ownership. And the
Mhm.
Chinese don't have privacy protections like we
Yeah.
do here.
Yeah, and you know, it was also like masked as other things, you know, like a health thing, like find out like everything, like what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, it wasn't really going into all of the other things that could be associated with this, like surprise family members and and new illnesses and
Yeah.
FBI investigations. It's really scary, and a couple of years ago, my nephew's wife got into doing genealogy, and was contacted by somebody who said she was our long lost sister, and that she's actually 2 years older than my oldest sister, and she knew a lot of stuff about my parents. And my niece-in-law wanted to you know, connect us. I was like, I don't want to know her. I'm good.
No,
I don't
right.
need any more family members. And I said, and, you know, like, go play with your own DNA and your own ancestry. Like, leave me out of it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It took years to like get my family out of my life. I didn't need any more. But you know, it's really it could be very sticky.
Yes, it can.
So did you actually meet him?
Oh yeah, we developed a beautiful relationship. He died in last year, but I he lived in San Diego, but I was able to visit him every year, and we just talked on the
Mhm.
phone frequently. And I believe it gave me another chance at a healthy father-daughter relationship, and I'm grateful that I got to meet him. And we share so many similar characteristics, and I loved his sense of humor. He passed out cigars and "It's a Girl" cards upon learning about me. He didn't have any other children of which he was aware. And it was an overall great experience after getting over the initial shock of it.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm. And
Yeah.
have there been any other, you know, family members that you've connected with and have relationships with now?
Sure. Yes. His nephews and nieces have become good friends who I see from time to time. I really enjoy their company. Even though I didn't think I would ever look like a white man. I do have the same features as
Mhm,
my biological father and more in common with him than I did with my dad who raised me. My dad had passed away before I found out, so that was kind of a blessing because he would
mhm,
have been upset by
mhm,
this, I'm sure. I think one of the most upsetting parts was realizing that I have no full blood siblings, that my brother, who is very dear to me, is now my half sibling. And a half sibling that I had through my dad is of no blood relation now. But
mhm,
um, I mean, my mom had a lot of shame about this when it first came out. She came to terms with it and came with into the attitude that if I was happy about the discovery, then she was happy for me. Yeah.
that's yeah, and have you, um has any other things come out of this other than the relationship, like any of the other things that you did research on, about just having this new version of yourself almost?
Well, I'm not really sure what you mean. I mean, it made me dive into the world of consumer DNA testing and write and talk about it and help other people with these discoveries. And I believe that I have amassed the most comprehensive list of resources for people who have experienced DNA test surprises. So I continue to add to that database. And when my book goes live, I'm going to make it public, including movies, documentaries,
Mm,
articles, books, support groups. and places to learn more about all of this. I think it's the only place that has a resource list like this. And I'm going to share it widely because I think it's needed today. People are just blindsided by this kind of news.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. It's like, yeah, Merry Christmas, like take your DNA test and
Yes, exactly.
and then here's directions to your real family's house.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, I also have explored Judaism. I went to Israel to learn more. I have gone to my friends' homes for Jewish holidays, but I don't think I'll ever really feel Jewish at my core because it's such a cultural thing in addition to a religion, and nobody in my family is observant. And so I feel like that was a lost opportunity, but yet I have more awareness and more knowledge about what it means to be Jewish. And since I'm still Catholic, Judaism is our grandparent religion. We came from Judaism. So that's been an interesting new facet to my life. And I also came away with the understanding, at least for me, that identity is porous. It's something that we can add to and take away from, and we alone get to decide who we are. The world will label us. We're a very race-centric society, but I have always been someone sort of in between. I'm not feeling 100% Southeast Asian or white. So I'm an in-between person. And now I have another facet that makes me different from other people. And when I was young, I wanted to be the same as everyone else. And now I revel in my uniqueness because I think it makes me more interesting. It certainly has made my life more interesting to me.
Yeah. And like, what about your kids? Like, what were their reactions to this?
Well, my son, he was joking, but he said, "Can I have a bar mitzvah?" And I said, "Well, if you go to Hebrew school and learn the Torah," and he said, "Never mind." And my daughter, who has many Palestinian friends, was worried I was going to become a Zionist. I said, "Oh, honey, you know I'm not going to do that." But she was less interested. My son, who's also an actor, met my biological father a couple times, and they talked about old Hollywood stories. And that was really fun for me to watch them interact in that way. But neither was very interested in being close with my biological father, which is slightly disappointing, but it was okay.
So when is the book coming out?
Well, it was supposed to come out in April by Bloomsbury Publishers, but I think it might now be delayed to September, unfortunately. We'll see. I hope it will come out the sooner the better because this is such a needed, I believe, book and resource for people who have taken DNA tests or are thinking about it. But the TED Talk should be public soon, so that will be also a good resource.
Yeah, and that will, like, people can get information from your website about that and the database that you've compiled. And yeah, okay, good. We'll flash up your website at the end, and I'll make sure that it's in the comments as well. So, like, what do you want people to know about embracing? I really love what you said is that identity is porous, and seems to be a common thread through all of the things that you're doing, because there are so many things that you're doing, and like, through doing all of those things, through celebrating your 50s and your 60s, and then writing doing the book and the TED Talk about the DNA testing and that whole experience, it really is affirming all of these different parts of who you are, and celebrating and representing them. So from that, what would you want people to know? Like, how can they start to go down that path of connecting all of their parts?
Yeah, well, I was thinking, because of what you posted online before leading up to this, that we were going to go into some of the really dark parts of my life, which
Yeah.
include childhood sexual abuse,
Mhm.
alcoholism, addiction, sexual assault, really hard things. And I hid a lot of that. Also, my mother was a victim of domestic abuse by my dad. So I hid these things. I thought if people knew where I was from and what happened to me, they wouldn't want to associate with me at all. And now I see them as things that have enabled me to be of service to others. That,
Mhm.
especially in the rooms of AA where I am active, that people feel so alone in these, what induce shame in many people. And I want people to know that these things don't have to define you. They can just be a part of you that lead to empathy and compassion for others, and can equip you to help someone else who is suffering. So I want people to know that no matter what has happened to you in your life, it doesn't have to define you, but instead can be used for the greater good. It can be used to help another suffering person. And at the same time, I would counsel people, as I do, that you alone are responsible for your happiness. At, in our childhood, we were sold this fake narrative of a handsome prince coming to save us. No one is coming to save us. It is within us to find what brings us joy and to pursue those things that elevate our lives. Someone may enhance your life in some way, but you come into this life and you leave this life alone, that you
Mhm.
alone are shepherding yourself through life. So surround yourself with people who uplift you. Um, Choose what you want to do with intentionality. Say no. And if you can't say no, say, sorry, I have another commitment.
Mhm.
And that commitment can simply be to restoring your own energy reserves. You don't owe people an explanation. And I guess I would also say you can't control what other people think about you. So
Right.
just drop those feelings, like distract yourself if you have to. But the bottom line is you cannot control what other people think. So let go of that and drop the rocks of judgment, self judgment, or caring about what other people think.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. And all of the challenging things that you've been through, um, how did you work through that? Was that like just through going, like I guess the question I want to ask was how did that journey that you took, like between 50 and 60, how did that help heal some of that?
Well, I will say that I did do a fair amount of traditional therapy, talk therapy. I have had periods of anxiety and depression for which I was medicated, but I haven't needed or used medication for the last 5 to 10 years now. Because what I found, what was most impactful for me, and it's different for everyone, was somatic healing. If
Hmm.
anyone has read the book, The Body Keeps a Score, often trauma is stored in your body. And somatic healing, which involves often deep breath work, enabled me to break out of some self defeating patterns and heal in a more profound and deep way than I had before. And I have a somatic healer whose name is Kelly Carpenter, and her website is theothersideofaverage.com. She's based in Canada, and I've gone on a couple of her retreats and worked with her online one on one for a deeper spiritual healing. Maybe somatic healing isn't for everyone, but it really is for me. So I've tried so many different things, so many different therapists along the way, and there are good therapists and bad therapists.
Yeah.
So you just have to work, try and see who is a good fit for you and what modality. I say somatic healing played a huge role in my growth in the last decade and healing in the last decade.
That's great. That's great advice too. I've done that as well. I had a lot of childhood trauma, and have AFib. So there's lots of things that you could do outside of Western medicine for that. So it's been really, really helpful. And that book is amazing. I've read that book as well. And let me see, we got some comments here. Let's see what they're chiming in.
Oh, yeah, Sue, The Body Keeps the Score is also a good resource for helping friends and family understand why can't you just get over it? Why do you
Yeah.
still get jumpy? Somatic healing takes time. Sue Kemayoni has become a friend. She was on my podcast, Becoming Your Best Version, and her story is incredible as well. And this is a woman who is thriving at 70 and wrote a really captivating book called The Practical Seductress, and it's so raw and beautiful. And I am just so happy that a friendship has bloomed from an interview I did for my podcast. I have a new episode every Friday, and I interview inspiring women. And the only consistent question I ask is, what do you do to become your best version? And I never get the same answer. And I catalog all these wonderful nuggets of advice into an ebook every other year that I put up on Amazon because, wow, we can all use tips like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do a similar thing, and we're kind of right at the point where I ask this question. Can you leave us with a wisdom bomb?
Wisdom bomb. Please, I feel like I gave a few of them already.
You absolutely did.
Something else. I guess this is what's coming up today. Your life is happening right now. It's up to you what you do with it. The reason that is coming up is because I was working on some estate matters for my mother who passed away this summer. She died after an unexpected fall in her own apartment, broke her neck and died. She was in relatively good health. You do not know if today is your last day. So it's up to you to live today with intentionality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry to hear about your mom.
Thanks.
But that is so important. And Sue has a little note for you.
You inspire me too, Sue. She is a really, really inspiring one. So, yeah, I mean, my podcast has exposed me to amazing women whose teams most often reach out to me to be on the podcast now that I have a good following. I've been doing it for 5 years. But it's such women of our age, I feel, are so interested in helping each other out, in supporting each other, that it's worth it to read really deeply in the realm of women in midlife, including your work, Donna, and so many other women who are contributing to discourse about what it is to be aging today. It's not like it was for our parents.
It's not, and there's so much negative dialogue around it. The only way that that's going to be dissipated is if we keep our voices strong and collective. We need to join our voices in this because we're just getting started.
That's so true. I'm about to run out of battery. That's why I'm running.
All right.
My charger.
Okay.
No, I'm good now.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, this has been really excellent conversation, and I love everything that you're doing, and I think it's so important that we reflect, not get stuck in the past, but reflect on our past. Today is the launch of the 3rd season of Julia Louis-Dreyfus's podcast, Wiser Than Me, and she launched her podcast like 2 weeks after I launched this. And her first guest was Jane Fonda. And there's a quote on, let me, I just want to get it right, but it's been on my website for years now, that from that first interview that she had with Jane Fonda. And it is, wrong webpage, sorry. But of all the interviews, it was my favorite one. And it was about her doing a life review at age 59 and realizing, like, this is it. This is my last act. And what she said was, to know where you want to go, you first need to understand where you've been. And that's what you do. And it's so
Indeed.
powerful. It's
Thank
so
you.
powerful, and it reflects back in so many different ways, and unexpected ways, as you as you've shared today. A whole new lineage that you didn't know existed.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
But thank you so much for being. Wait, we've got another comment. Okay, thank you for sharing your wisdom. I
Thank
was
you,
just actually
Mindy.
going to say that. We've got a chorus. We've got a chorus going on. So here is Maria's website. Visit her website. Keep an eye out for her TED Talk. It should be dropping any day now, right? And
Yes.
then the book will be coming next year. And if you know anybody that needs any support around genealogy tests, please reach out to her. She's got the answers that nobody else seems to have.
Thank you so much, Donna. Thank you.
And I'm just going to reiterate her wisdom bomb. Your life is happening right now. How? It's up to you what you choose to do with it. So go out there and do something today, and then come back and tell us what you did. If you're listening on the replay, tag us with comments, questions, ideas, and we'll come back and keep the conversation going. And we will be back here every Wednesday. So thank you, Maria. It was great spending some time with you today. And thank you for everyone who weighed in with questions and comments and everything like that.
Thank you, Donna.
Happy Wednesday.